From birth, we are all taught what our parents have been taught, which is often simply what their parents have taught them. We take this in without ever asking many questions, such as who we are, why we are here, and why things are the way they are. Generations have passed, trends have changed, technologies have emerged, and communication has opened the doors for new evolutionary ideas and insights that are pushing the envelope on society's boundaries. Yet evolutionary ideas seem to remain in the fantasy section of an industrialist system, for in the good old ways of a governing establishment we ought to trust. Authority knows best is the slogan that guides our conventional wisdom. We, meanwhile, are left to mind our own business, go on with our lives, and attempt to live happily ever after, as long as we conform to the norms forced upon us. From cradle to grave, we are led to follow the guidelines of what authority defines as a state-of-the-art system, one in which success seems to begin and end within the running wheel of education, career performance, debt management, and retirement. A vibrant economy is the ultimate priority of our global hierarchy, while a vibrant planet, the respect of all life forms, healthy foods, peaceful ways, and conscious actions seem to be a mere subject of conversation, often turned into a few fundraising campaigns with very little or no impact at all. We shall nonetheless pass on these capitalist and patriotic values to our children, giving them the tools to carry out the very same cycle we have been in for as long as we can remember, because after all, it is all we have ever known. Some have stated that we have reached the peak of human evolution, but have we really moved beyond all archaic and backward concepts of reality? Have we collectively let go of all that currently restrains humanity? When we consciously expand our awareness and look beyond what our system stands for, we realize that it is simply erroneous to presume that it endorses a forever sustainable way of living. It is no concern for respecting either nature or human lives. It only profits through the promotion of unconsciousness. How many war casualties, oil spills, dead fish, and natural disasters will we need to see before we set aside our differences and awaken to our interconnectedness with each other, the earth, and all life forms? We destroy our home, the earth, for the sake of the economy. We torture and treat animals as mere commodities for the sake of the economy. We keep on using oil, despite the alternatives, for the sake of the economy. We perpetuate wars and kill each other for the sake of the economy. We promote superficial and materialistic values for the sake of the economy. We indebt the poor for the sake of the economy. We remain asleep for the sake of the economy. The understanding and wisdom that would deprogram our minds and open our eyes to the grand scheme of things has no economic value. When we look at the world today, we can see the disconnection and separation that exists between one another, the divide of countries, the fight for survival, the push to attain greed, power, and control. This is what our world appears to be built off of. What is it that is keeping us so disconnected? Why do we think we are only our bodies and our thoughts? Why are we driven blindly by our emotions? What is driving us on a day-to-day basis? When we think of the word ego, we often associate it with someone that is self-centered and arrogant. Here we are going to refer to the ego as something else. Here, The ego is the program that we operate off of, the piece that drives us on a daily basis and disconnects us from who we truly are.
Essentially, the ego is the part of us that convinces us that we're nothing more than the bodies that we're in, and that we are the thoughts that we are having. Now, because the fact that this convincing is so well done and that we buy into these thoughts, it becomes so ingrained that it makes it much more difficult to become aware of and actually be able to take control of.
Well, think for a moment. If you are listening to your own thoughts, who is really listening? Who are you? In doing this, you realize that you are not the thoughts. You are something else. You are the soul observing the thoughts. The problem is, we never ask this question. Therefore, we go on thinking that we simply are those thoughts we are listening to. If you look at many of the movies, television shows, popular songs, and distractions that have been released, they all have one thing in common. They are all designed to shape the mind for a certain life, a way of being. They even go as far as telling the ego how to generate emotions, and by emotions we do not mean feelings, which we often relate them to. The truth is, emotions and feelings are an entirely different thing. The emotional responses we often have to certain events are usually the result of how society, or the control structure, has programmed us to respond. Much like in the designer example heard earlier, many things are done to lock us into emotional states. The ego believes that in certain experiences it must respond a certain way. Since we think the ego's thoughts are our own, we oblige and carry out that which is suggested.
When you experience emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, etc., and you observe where they're coming from, you begin to see that we often operate in a manner very similar to how a robot would. Now, the only difference between us and a robot is that a robot doesn't have an awareness beyond its programming, but we do. We're just unconscious of it. We've forgotten. Now, we've convinced ourselves that we are these programs, these auto-responsive emotions, and that we have no power over them. And this is why we find ourselves constantly responding in the same manner over and over, repeating the same cycle.
How can we experience freedom when we are convinced that what we are doing and experiencing is our own creation? We think we are our clothing opinions. We think we are the type of car we like. We think we are the political side we support or the religion we belong to. We think we are the one that's angry at the person who cuts us off while driving. The truth is, we are none of these thoughts. The deception that makes us feel that we are our thoughts is so grand, so layered, and so deep that we can go our whole lives without ever realizing who we truly are. Freedom can only come by bypassing this program. When we look at where our conscious choices and creations have led us to this point, it's clear to see that we have created an intense sensorial environment. We have created a world where we see each other as complete and separate entities from one another, a separation so severe that we are capable of killing one another. We've created a financial system where we have enslaved ourselves into working the vast majority of our lives, doing things we do not enjoy, just to earn pieces of paper. We take children of complete potentiality and we indoctrinate them, limit them, and force them into a tiny box just so that we can continue to repeat the system. We have become so disconnected from ourselves that we actually harm ourselves simply to appease ego desires. We eat food that is terrible and harmful for our bodies because of the emotional connections we attach to them. We drive cars that run on oil, which pollutes the planet, because it's more important to be profitable than to use the free energy methods that could be easily available to everyone. We put medications into our bodies because we always want that quick fix and are disconnected from treating our bodies in any way that resembles something natural. We drink alcohol and take other mind-altering substances because we feel the need to alter our mind to escape who we think we are on a daily basis. Looking at all of this, can we truly say that our world is in a state of peace? Something needs to change. We cannot keep repeating this cycle over and over again. Doing so would accomplish nothing but the destruction of ourselves and the planet we live on. Every day you see more and more people awakening to the various deceptions taking place on the planet. Many are beginning to see through the created infrastructures, the false events. Through the way the media lies for the benefit of a few, this is becoming increasingly known, and those who understand it want change. The question is, how? One option is to go out and protest, fight, scream, and yell about all of this, but what does that really do? All it does is repeat the same cycle of separation over and over again. We can try to lobby or implement new policy, but what does that do? In a government that's run by people that enforce laws regardless of vote? Absolutely nothing. No president, prime minister, or elected official can do anything to truly change our current state. We can try and overthrow government and restore human rights and freedoms, but what will that do? Nothing. Because the world is not like this because of our lack of rights and freedoms. The world is like this because of us, or more specifically, the way we are programmed. We can change any external part of this world until we are blue in the face, and it will never shift this planet to a peaceful and a harmonious state, nor will we experience freedom. Why? Because our consciousness creates the reality before us. If our consciousness stays the same, we will create the same limitations, but in a different form. We will never truly be free until we have freed ourselves from the mind. Taking a look at this on a deeper level, what is the current state of humanity's consciousness? Our reality is currently being driven by a program called the ego, a program that keeps us separated, in a consistent chase for materials, and identified with things that are not a part of who we truly are. What has this consciousness created for our world? We have war, we have greed, we have power, and we have pieces of paper that we slave to make and die to protect because it determines our very survival. We care more about cars, our clothes, our looks, and convenience than we do about caring for the planet we live on or our own bodies. The bottom line is we are disconnected from ourselves, so we have created a world filled with disconnection. If we want to change this planet and change this experience, the answer is actually quite simple. You change the source of what is playing out. That source is us. Not the government, not the elite, not the economy, not the religions, but us. Each and every soul on this planet. We change the way our consciousness creates this reality and free ourselves from the enslavement of the ego and mind, and we will change the reality itself. Currently, we go through life stuck in our thoughts, stuck in our heads thinking all of the time. Instead, we can be conscious. We can witness the beauty of the planet, the beauty of interaction with others, and the beauty of being aware of what is playing out in our lives. It simply is about allowing the bigger part of who you are to come through. Who we truly are is not defined as anything. It simply is pure potentiality. It is not our culture, the language we speak, the job we have, the color of our skin, or where we live. We have put ourselves into this tiny box saying, This is all that we are and all that we can experience, and the mind made that real. But now, some of us are starting to poke holes in the box, and these holes are allowing light into the box. And with the light, people are now starting to see the box for what it really is. Just a box that we are stuck inside. Eventually, as more and more of us step out, the entire box illuminates, allowing everyone to see the truth. This is what this shift is all about. This is how we change our reality on the planet, by stepping out of the box, stepping out of being run by the ego. This means letting go of everything we have defined ourselves and the planet as. We cannot simply look at fixing the structure in place or implementing a new one altogether. If we attempt to do those things without first shifting our consciousness, we will still create from the old archaic way of seeing things, from our old understandings of the planet and how we see and define it. This will do nothing but create enslavement all over again, this time just in a slightly different form. We have to go beyond our old understandings and wipe the slate clean. You can never truly bring change so long as you are holding on to everything you have accepted as reality. We have to look back and understand both what we have created and what we have experienced up to this point, and then from that create something totally different, something totally new and totally free. As part of our consciousness shifting, whether we are aware of it or not, or whether the mind likes it or not, we are going to be forced to let go of our old understandings and beliefs about our reality. Everything from our cultural backgrounds, our economic system, our religious beliefs, our education system, and all concepts of who we think we are. Holding on to any of these will only make things more challenging as the shift progresses. This internal shift in each one of us is going to continue to present itself more and more until we let go of what it is that we're holding on to. Each one of us emanates a frequency that adds to the overall vibration and frequency of the planet. The control mechanism is simply trying to maintain a planetary frequency that keeps us experiencing this reality. Every thought or emotion we have carries with it a frequency. If we feel hate, it has a certain frequency. If we feel love, it has its own frequency. When we feel or make certain thoughts or feelings a part of us, we emanate that frequency. The goal of the controllers is to keep us emanating frequencies in a particular range, one that this way of life, this projection, exists in. If we started to get out of this frequency and changed our overall frequency, the world as it is today would change completely. Everything this control mechanism does is geared towards maintaining this world. Genetically designed foods we eat, vaccines, medications, chemtrails, satellite frequencies, chemicals in our water, and so on. They are all there to keep us locked in this frequency. Not only locked, but also many of the actions we regularly do are a direct result of this frequency. Fighting, anger, and protesting. Feel the way these actions make you feel to do or see them. Does it bring you peace? The more we let go and dissolve the old ways and beliefs, the more we assist in shifting the overall frequency of everyone. We begin to step out of the frequency range being maintained, and the reality before us begins to come down. Remember, we are all connected. A change in each of us results in a change in the entire planet. It is up to each one of us to begin to disempower and become aware of all that we individually and collectively have defined as our reality. It is up to each of us to realize that which is not truly us, and to begin to let go of the power the program has over us. In some cases, it may be challenging to let go of many of the things we define and identify ourselves with. But this is this way for a reason. The control structure has designed it to be this way, not only to maintain the system, but also to offer us the challenge in remembering who we truly are. A great place to start is right here, right now. What has this information brought up in you? Are you angry? Full of judgment? Upset? If so, why are you having these emotions? If you were truly at peace, then none of this would bother you, whether you felt it as true or not. If you discover your reactions were from some sort of idea or definition, maybe a belief system that you identify with, ask yourself, do I really need to continue experiencing these old beliefs? Or can I let them go? These are the types of questions and observations we must make about ourselves as we go through the shift. These are the types of questions and conversations we must share with one another. These will allow us to observe and deprogram all definitions and triggers we have in our own lives. These types of questions are what will lead us to experiencing true peace in a world without limits.